Okay, we're going to bring Billy on here momentarily. Here we go. Okay, we're live, Billy. Let me see if I can hear you.
Yeah, I hear you
Oh, yeah.
clearly.
Awesome. Yeah, I can hear you just fine, too.
Perfect.
Okay, so let's adjust this a little bit.
Yeah.
There we go. So, what's
Nice
going
to
on,
be
man?
here,
How are
Garrett.
you?
Thanks for inviting me, by the way, and all this.
Oh, yeah, no problem. Took us a little time to get coordinated, but here we are. So, for people who don't know, why don't you just share a little bit about, like, if you remember, how you found out about Radical Undoing or me or the Command Z, and then I'll kind of just let you go through it.
Cool. Cool. And again, thank you. So
Thank you, man.
you want me to just because I mean I feel like this work started. I came across the diet, the Dr. Hyatt. I guess you could put it that way. Diet for your body, mind, and soul. Uh, yeah, I came across his book in university. But I really came across you when I came back from Thailand. I had been living there a year in 2012 to 2013,
Hmm.
and that work carried me. In a lot of ways, I had the space to do a ton of that work out there and just delve into the mind of you know Dr. Hyatt and what is undoing from his perspective. And I found that through Robert Anton Wilson, and I was like, what are these body practices and what the hell? And figured while I was in, a Buddhist centered culture, I might as well, try to put this stuff to use. But it was really, again, coming back from that experience where I don't remember how. I remember the room I was in, my office, my bedroom, and I was like, oh, look at this. And that was 2013. I think I like to reference this one a lot, but you had the beard and the lighting was not nearly as good as it was right now, and you were doing the neck turns.
Oh, yeah, that's from, it was like on an old MacBook or something. Yeah, yeah, that's right. It was like at 6 in the morning. Yeah.
Yeah, it was incredible. It was I remember thinking like, damn. And then you started you had like a an email like newsletter,
Yeah.
and I jumped immediately into the newsletter just because what you were saying, I was able to take your words and apply them to, the exercises I was doing. I mean, I look back and a lot of it was still very up here and not very down here. If that makes any sense.
Hmm.
But it
So, like
was,
an intellectual understanding rather than direct experience. Yeah.
and I would have these moments of euphoria with the intellectual understanding, similar to moments I had had with, Dr. Hyatt and, Robert Anton Wilson and Timothy Leary stuff. It was like, I feel like in some ways my body knew. And so it was like sending the messages up, but I was like, yeah, this is because I'm reading this stuff and not actually doing the practices. At least for a good while there. I think probably the first time I actually did, a session as opposed to just warm ups. I had taken a liking to the tactics, so to speak. The face stretching, the shoulders, the
Hmm.
flops. I think I signed up for. You also had like an old WordPress back then,
Hmm.
with a collection of your the stuff you had been putting out there. And I was mostly mining that for the videos.
Hmm.
And yeah, just like, oh, I could flop like this. Okay, that's what the flop was. Oh, okay, stretch your face like that. Okay, that. And I was staying really only to the warm ups, to the pre work, and not really doing a session. The first time I did a session was with you again, almost a year after that. Um, I was working in New York at the time. I knew the corporate world really wasn't my thing. I was like, I was on the breakthrough of something. and turned out to be the rest of my life. And I was like, you had made some offer about coaching, and I was like, you know what, like, let's fucking, like, boom, like, let's do this. Like, why am I wasting my time here? And yeah, I remember those again. I remember the room. I remember the springtime, very similar time right now. At least it's springtime here in North America, and it's just like you can feel the life and the vigor, and it's literally, I want to say this is probably around 2016. So I want to say even more than that, 3 years after I got back.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Is that when you came to Portland?
No. So yeah, later that year. That's
okay.
The radical undoing sessions that we did when I was living in New Jersey helped kind of provide the energy around like, how do I remove myself from where I am right now to get some more space and perspective in my life.
And now I think an interesting point to make would be, as far as I remember, I don't generally, or especially back then, I wasn't giving like cognitive advice or life, like saying, hey, you should do this, or you should do that, or you should, right? It was just dealing with the body and the movement. And
yeah, no, none. And not that I don't know if I was asking for any, I probably was. I mean, but yeah, it was literally just like, we'd get on, I'd open up my laptop, you'd be like, all right, assume the position, no interpretations, no voluntary movements, and just like go. And yeah, I remember feeling the rushes of energy, and I think still back then I was very disassociated from what was going on in my physical experience, which is always an interesting, just random aside to say, because I've spent so much time in the gym, just experimenting all over the place with exercises. And it's weird to think that even in that, was disassociated, but
yeah.
Different topic.
Fair point.
Different. Yeah. And just to suffice to say that an ayahuasca journey odyssey into Peru and this work, which I had a sense, knew that they were connected. I didn't know how, helped me kind of get out of that corporate space, and sent me on a road trip through North America. And I was super excited to do that. I didn't have a plan, and I grew up in a family environment where it was very, what's your plan? What are you going to do? How are you going to support yourself? Survival mechanism type stuff. And so it was very scary to jump, just be like, okay, I don't know where I'm going, but I'm trusting this. Let's go.
So you went on the road trip, and then, so that's right, you and I had done sessions online, right? Prior to that then.
Yeah, that was leading up to that. That was 2016, those sessions in New Jersey, and then we ended up meeting in person for some sessions in Nevada City, of all places.
Didn't you? So you didn't come to Portland at all?
We did. We ended up.
Somebody else.
I think we met in. No, you know what? I think it was just Nevada City.
Because I thought you came to Portland earlier. Because I would have been in Portland like 2014, 2015, or maybe that's where I was when we were doing the online sessions.
I think that's.
And then I moved to Nevada City. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes more sense because 2014, 2015, I was still East Coast corporate, 3-piece suit, selling Vodafone.
Okay. So then we would have been online. And that's when you were still thinking of doing the farm thing with your brother.
Yeah.
But that was yeah. Yeah. So then we met in person then in Nevada City. That's right then. Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, and we hung out at Elixart, which is still an awesome place. And we did a session, smoked some weed. I don't know if I could say that here.
I think it was legal then and there at that time. That's an
Sure.
interesting side note. I've recently, I mean, I haven't really been into that in the past few years since living out here in Croatia, but I've also like thought a lot more deeply about it, and I don't think it's really a healthy thing for people, and not for me either. And when I lived in places where it was
Mm.
legal and easy to find, then I indulged, but. Yeah, well, I was watching some Orthodox stuff about it, that Father Spirit and Bailey, and he went through all the arguments in favor, you know, and it's kind of fascinating. Yeah, I mean, it's not the point of the stream today, but anyway.
Yeah, I'm actually super curious about because I also agree with that. Yeah, I think in particularly that, and I will say that was probably a part of what was going on in the moment for me, because this was you're gonna get a kick out of this if you remember. We were supposed to have the session in at this spot at the place that I was Airbnb-ing, lovely lady, just outside like the outskirts of downtown. And I remember being so like, we were smoking, we were high, the conversation was so great, and then it was like, all right, man, you ready for the session? And I was like, man, not yet. You're like, you're all right, man, you ready for the session? Like, you're trying to like get this work done, and I'm like, no. And I look back and I just think like how the intensity of that moment was definitely not aided by the marijuana. And at that time, yeah, I think I was definitely in an abusive relationship, so to speak, with marijuana.
Yeah, it's easy to get confused with it, and like,
Yeah.
apparently it slows down or that it ages the brain prematurely. All kinds of things I've since discovered about it, and yeah, I think this work is best encountered totally clear, not even eating a bunch of food ahead of time. You know what I mean? But where you can just be in your body and be present, and that's enough. But for so many people, that's they're not even really aware of the body, and if they are, it's because it's in pain of some kind. So they find a way to get out of that awareness, you know. And I think that all kinds of drugs are what people go to for that. Whereas the clean experience of just being there, present in the body, doing these movements, doing the breathing, has the opposite effect. It brings clarity and kind of a sharpness to cognition and to bodily awareness, to presence, to understanding what's going on with the people around you, and how to flow with that. And yeah, anyway, interesting side point for sure.
Yeah. So I mean, man, I feel like we could riff on that for let's say the storyline.
But what I'm curious about too, and what I want to share with people is like, what about your direct experience, and then how did that play out in your life? You know what I mean? In terms of being dissatisfied or whatever else. You know, why would you want to come and do sessions? What's the point of that?
I honestly have been at my core, God, man, this word, spiritual seeker. But like, at my core, I think way back, just to answer your question outright, like why these thoughts interest me, and just that video that you shared, very recently about Seraphim Rose, like I resonate with that man's thirst for God. Really resonate with that man's thirst for God, and Orthodoxy put me in a beautiful place, and that's where I come from. For you listeners out there, was born Greek Orthodox in a I would say more culturally Greek Orthodox than say like very strict dogmatically or theologically. Although that's what I was attracted to. I loved being an altar boy. I loved listening to Father Jim and Father George. Our priests, our spiritual leaders. I loved the lessons in Orthodoxy. I think I was also surrounded by a lot of people who were very well-meaning and wanted that connection to God. And so that place is honestly what connects me to this work, because I found a lot of things like Seraphim Rose lacking from the Eastern perspective. And maybe that's unfair to say, in the sense of like, that's just my understanding of Eastern perspective and what I've encountered by encountering the minds of Eastern thinkers beyond just Alan Watts, right? Like beyond just like the surface level people who can make it to the mainstream, the people who are actually there, real, holding that, holding that vibration down, holding that space, like meeting them and talking with them and being like, okay, so this is really what that looks like embodied. That's in short what answered my question, and how that relates to the journey with what you put out there, Garrett, is I was lost and I was looking for truth.
Mm-hmm.
And I was in many ways dissatisfied with, maybe dissatisfied is the wrong word, but it was in many ways look like wanting something else. Mm-hmm. And the exercises I was just bringing into my laboratory, the laboratory of my experience, to see how these things could make an effect. And I knew that they were making an effect. And I think a thought's coming to my mind about Sun Tzu and what he used to say, that tactics without strategy is the sound before defeat. And that's so in a lot of ways the beginning of my journey with what you were putting out there and what I was encountering through, even your teacher and, main figure in this, Christopher Hyatt. I was getting very familiar with the tactics, but I wasn't getting very clear on strategy, if that makes any sense. And actually, when I was working with you, I was sort of hoping that you would have a deeper understanding and strategy of this, and I was also in my own way afraid to get the answer to that. And so, I mean, that brings us back to where the story left off, which is us smoking weed and hanging out, like ready to have a session, you ready to do the work, and me being like, oh, and reflecting on that moment, even just now, like not being in touch with where I was here, to actually experience what was going on for multiple reasons. And I mean, I think the universe works in mysterious ways and keeps us in orbit and brings us back and forth, in right timing. But yeah, so, I mean, around that time though, I think that was really the last session in, we've kind of been on and off, and yeah, from 2016 on, I can't really remember a time where we were, actually engaged, as a, even client practitioner relationship.
So in your, in your daily life, or so what happened? What's the before and after? You know what I mean? Or the after? We kind of know the before. What was it that the sessions actually did for you, or what shifted, or what's the, you know what I mean? Like in like raw kind of real terms. What was your experience like?
I mean, I feel like I'm getting more of that, the raw experience. I mean, these things were opening me up, but I was very stubborn to stay closed. If that resonates with you, I would like dip in the water, and I would maintain these practices. And let me tell you, just for anybody listening here, there is so much magic in the warm-ups. Can't even begin to explain. Those warm-ups have helped me before giving lectures in university. They helped me deal with, incredible social anxiety while living in a foreign country, Thailand, before giving classes, if you're ever looking for a way to just get out of your head and relax and be with where you are, truly, whether you're okay with that or not, but being where you are and then just being with, if you're okay with that or not, going deeper into yourself on that. There's a lot that's there with the warm-ups. And the sessions were like, moments in time where, with like Nevada City, like after us hanging out, I went back to California, and I went out to Houston, or north of Houston, really, Montgomery, to go work on a farm and to get more of that experience and work with animals. And yeah, I would say, I mean, like those, I wouldn't have been able to handle myself the way I handled myself on the road in America. So I've gotten the reaction when people say that they're like, you just traveled alone throughout America. I was like, yep. Like some people be like, you didn't have a gun? I'm like, no. Like, like that level of just like, all right, spirit is guiding me through this. So I like, spirit, I got your back. You got my back. Like, let's go. God's got this. And the exercises were allowing me to access that frame of mind, that body awareness, the relaxation necessary to kind of channel that. And, the reality is, Garrett, I mean, I really wasn't doing sessions like the way you set up sessions every Sunday. I was doing all the pre-work, the flopping, the laughter, and even then more recently, the face stretching, the shoulder raising, that kind of stuff. And it was, it was something that was oftentimes a daily practice, but more so I would come back to it when I would realize that I was in this like loss. It was like, what the hell? And then I would feel better, and I would sense the clarity, and I'd be like, okay, we're going here, we're doing this. Yeah. And I mean, I would say the most work we've done has just been as of late, and
on the Sunday sessions. Yeah.
And it's just an incredible practice to have once a week, in terms of getting out of your head and getting into your body.
Yeah.
And being connected with where you are. I feel like a lot of what I was doing before was just sort of like, I mean, again, there's a lot of magic in the warm-ups, but the session and understanding what the session can do is, it adds a layer of strategy that can organize the tactics to.
Well, don't use a metaphor though. Give clear examples, because that would only, people would only understand that after they have the experience. You know what I mean? Okay.
Yeah. I mean, in a way, I'm trying to speak to them, but so like the idea that the concept that your organs vibrate. Let's just sit with that, right?
No. Don't do that, because this, again, we don't want to bring it to some kind of high analytical level. What I wanted to talk to is people who might never give any consideration to their organs or some kind of idea of vibration. I want to know like raw, real life, experiential kind of stuff. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I know it's hard to go there. I know
it's hard to put that stuff into words, man. I mean, the deep breathing, the sense of energy flowing. You've used the word anxiety tolerance. Anxiety is such a strange word anyway. But like the idea that life force is, again, with the words, like what does that mean? Metaphor, force, like, but that like the sensations of my body at any given time, feeling.
There is a sense of aliveness, right? There's a difference between a dead human body and then a living human body.
Yeah.
And some of that is this movement of blood and of life force. And I don't even like to use the word energy. Now, even in Orthodoxy, I know they use the word energies a few times, which is in some interesting and beautiful ways. I don't know enough to speak on that. But the general idea in Christian creation story is that God molded the people out of the dirt, the earth, the material, and then breathed life into it. So there's an animating factor to our existence. And then to couple that with a term a massage and chiropractor teacher coined, he called it living rigor. And his idea was that the body, so people that are hunched over all day or all different chronic tension, if the shoulders are up like this, that the muscles would actually go into like this pre-rigor mortis state and just kind of be dead, but just barely kept alive. But then he would break those muscle groups open and the blood would come rushing back in, you know? So we don't even have to defer to terms like energy or anything that I know what the word means, but people can easily drift off because it's been misused in all these other contexts, right?
Yes,
To refer
definitely.
to something mystical. But correct me where I'm wrong, but I think what we're discussing is bringing more natural movement and aliveness back to the human body, which has been tensed up through mimicking the bodies of the parents and of society and all this, and then through various repetitive kind of work situations and tension situations. So
Yep.
carrying around a body full of chronic tensions, and then the blood can't even flow properly through those areas. So it's just like if my fists are like this and I'm holding a hose, you know, the water can't get through it, but if I'm relaxed, it can. And then the flow of the nervous system, the electricity through that, and when that flows smoothly, the body works how it is supposed to work, which means the senses can work how they're supposed to work. And so often people are caught in a trap built out of abstraction and imagination and words and concepts, to the point where they only have an idea of a body, and then they have an idea of a relationship, an idea of situations. You know what
Yep.
I mean? And then
100%.
there's, so like on your road trip, had you not been doing any undoing or whatever, you could get into situations where you're perceiving fear, and then the imagination will project future catastrophic experiences, and then your body will react as if those are about to happen. It'll tense up, and then where the awareness is locked into this interpretation, but there could be nothing going on around you at all, or some guy could be coming up to give you some food, and you could run away screaming. Does that kind of give it some context?
Oh
For you
yeah.
to share, like from your perspective, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, ultimately, something that pops into my mind is the teleology of all this. Like, where Garrett, what are you doing here? Why do you care about this stuff so much? But as for me, I mean my becoming more aware of what was happening inside of me and around me is essentially what this work has all been a part of, because I mean, ultimately that is God. This may sound incredibly blasphemous, but we are the embodiment of divinity here.
See, I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say that. I would say we got the breath. That God gave us life. But I hesitate to say, if you made the claim like we are God, then I would ask you, okay, like create a universe for me right now.
Right.
So there is something beyond, as far as I can tell, that there's something. It's not as simple as saying we are God, and you see that in a lot of New Age circles and all this kind of stuff. The claim
Yes.
is made, but I don't know what grounding it has. You know.
I agree with what you said, and I agree. I couldn't just summon a universe for you. And we can participate in parlor tricks and to some degree magic, but yeah, no, it's definitely a more subtle concept. That said, there's something divine about us, and I don't want to make claims here, because that would, I don't know if that's, unless you want to go into that.
Well, that's not really the thrust of our meeting today.
Right.
I will be doing more talks like that in the future with various folks, and we can have you on for that too.
Right.
But for today, I'm just wanted to share with people, because you've been around a long time. You came and we did some work together, back when you were in the corporate space, and then we kept in touch, just generally over time. And then you came and had some sessions, and now you're back doing the weekly sessions, which I love. You and everybody that comes for those, it's such a delightful. Such a delightful experience every single week.
I get a lot of energy.
Just go into, go ahead.
Yeah, I get a lot of energy and vitality from those practices. I always feel very relaxed. I mean, like you had said before, descriptions of the body, and then energy moving, electricity moving through the body, and the tension in my body comes way down. It regularly does that. And I'm finding to trust that more and more and more and more, because just, put it right out there. I mean, one of the things that I'm like sort of discontented and tired of in my life, it's like, how come I'm not, like, how do I make this stuff rentable? And the word is just in Spanish, and profitable is just, but like profitable comes with so much baggage. Rentable is the word I'm thinking of. And it's like, because I would have these feelings of like, oh, like I'm creating something. This is joyous. Like even just this webinar I've been working on, like, oh my God, like how much fun it is to put something like this together and to provide value for people. And this is like language for anybody out there that wants to, learn Spanish. I'll put my information out there. But the idea is, it's just like I'm creating this thing, and it's an experience, being an artist, right? But then like feeling like like you can't do that, like the the stuff, the tension comes in. It's like wait, when you can be aware of that, that constrictive nature that you may have inherited, not yours, right? That may just be, a miasm, for lack of a better word, a society fog, just kind of, if you're an artist, you're helpless, you're a creator. Who are you really? You're nobody important, that kind of stuff. When it creeps back in, if you're aware and in your body, and you have a relationship with it, it's not a concept anymore. It's a relationship with the forces in and around you, and what's actually meaningful to you as well. What do you really want? What are your true desires? You're getting in touch with those and letting those be something that informs how you interact with the world around you. I get a lot of that from the weeklies, and being around people who are trying to be more present to this, to the experience we're all in. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's been a tremendous asset in terms of having creative energy, using creative energy. Like even this moment, like I'm not intentionally fasting, but I've been so excited from working in the morning, that here I am. It's almost 12 o'clock my time. Haven't had breakfast yet, but I'm just going. I'm like, this is amazing. Like it's epic. Like this is the stuff I want to be doing with my life. So like I'm gonna be dead soon. Like let's go. And say soon, but you never know when you're gonna punch the ticket.
Yeah.
It's like if I died today, would I regret what I did? No. And there wasn't always a time where I was thinking that. There was a time where, yeah.
There was a time where what? Where were you headed there?
Well, just there was a time where I was, it was up here, and it was like, you're how old are you? And you haven't gotten the things together, and what's with your 401k, and why, there, oh God. The list is endless as to why I'm no good. But it's, like that's like tuning into that. It's your choice, right? Like, what do you want to create for yourself? How do you want to live? What's the energy you want to cultivate and bring to the people around you? And energy, again, being sort of a, I suppose an amorphous term, but, the animating breath of life, that the pneuma, for lack of a better term, as they used to say in Greek dance circles, the kefi, what do you want to share with me?
I like the idea in the, at least I've heard it from some Orthodox people, but the idea of sharing your gifts, that you were given talents and skills and things, and then that one of the tasks is to actually share those, to bring those out into the world.
Yeah. And that right there is where I can say this has been affecting me most. I guess I'm curious. Do you think the universe is conscious? Just curious.
again, well, I don't like the term the universe, unless we're using it in this sense to describe
Give it
all
your
that
own.
is, let's say.
Right. Yeah.
So I don't know if I would say the universe is conscious, because then we're talking about sort of a disembodied creation. I would say that
Yeah.
God is there in the creation.
Let me
You
rephrase
know
the
what I mean?
question. Yeah, let me rephrase. Do you believe do you see lessons in the circumstances around you? Do you as if that, if you look at your desk, or if you look at your room, you look at your house, you look at your life, your bedroom, that there is a reflection of you in there, and that you are in some ways in a game like learning process with yourself? Does that resonate?
At times, yeah, that resonates. Yeah.
And I only mean to bring that up to say that I feel like in that game with myself that I'm playing, and oh man, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, lack of seriously disciplined language acknowledged, that I'm in a place where it's like the universe, all that is the world around me, saying like, all right, if you really believe in this stuff, well, it's time to sink or swim with it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, it's enough of the gaming aspect of it. It's time for playing for keeps. And yeah, and I gotta say, being even just this live stream, just being more open about my experiences with undoing, because it's very hard to articulate in fucking
Wow.
language. And
Yeah.
and you have to admit, you have to let people be other creators, like. And I love that you wrestle with terms. I throw something out there and you're like, I love that. I love to see that that we can play with this shit, because that's what we're supposed to do. We're playing in shit. I don't know if I'm supposed to be cursing on this, but God created us out of mud. You could call that shit. This is what we're doing here. And so, yeah, I just feel the life, trusting the like joy to like, okay, this is the relationship with God, not in the head. This is the
Mm-hmm.
relationship with God here, that if I listen, like truly, what does that mean to listen to God? Is he speaking through your pastor? Is he speaking the words your pastor is speaking? Is he speaking the words your father is speaking? Is he like, where is, if you're playing hide and go seek with God, all that is that kind of, and again, it's super metaphorical, but just like the feeling of that, the open rib cage, the like, if I'm like, oh wow, okay, oh, I'm tight there, like the ability to feel at home in my body,
Mm-hmm.
in a non, super parasympathetic, and able to recognize then too, and this is more of the tactics and strategy thing, able to recognize when it's like, oh wow, okay, this is a sympathetic state. And then to induce a sympathetic state, like through exercise and vigorous exercise, and then to induce a parasympathetic state, a strong parasympathetic state, which is what I think is it's a fantastic application of the undoing work, at least the body work aspect of it.
Mm-hmm. And
You know,
what
we
would be the usefulness of those states?
to learn to, I mean, for me, I can only really speak for me, to to experience the full range of what it means to be alive, you know what it means to be in the human experience, and where what it this is a mystery. Our being, in a lot of ways, again, personal belief here, but we live in a mystery. We are a mystery, and so with mystery comes adventure. And if you could step away from if you could choose to meet that adventure, with with maybe some fear, I mean, and give in to the fear and to the doubt, and oh man, I'm not going to be able to do that. But like, or you could meet the mystery with curiosity, and an explorative spirit, and inner resources, like, oh, okay, like I know I don't know this, and I know I don't really, like, I don't even have any idea what I'm in for, but I'm going to get through this, faith in a certain way.
Yeah, man, that's very fascinating. So, let's see. And if anybody watching has any questions for Billy, go ahead and type them in.
Yeah, please,
The
would love
chat
to
there.
field the
And
questions. I guess in a way, usefulness is, to know how to better navigate life, to become a skilled adventurer. If we want to adventure in the world, and I certainly want to adventure, becoming being able to be super parasympathetic and restorative and relaxing to yourself, and then also being able to be on the other side of that and knowing that those two ends are connected. Knowing our multidimensionality. And oh my God,
explain for people what is like what are those states like in actual experience?
Yeah, so I mean, like, parasympathetic, from a physiological lens, you're building a lot of saliva, generating a lot of saliva in your mouth, so your mouth gets really wet.
Well, let's say not in the necessarily in the physical sense. Like, what is the characteristics of that state on the feeling level or on the internal level?
Sure. An awareness of what an awareness, and it's really an awareness behind the feeling, an awareness behind the sensations of the body, an awareness behind the cognition and the thinking passing through your thoughts at any time. You're aware that you are experiencing thought. You are aware that you're experiencing feeling. You are aware that you're experiencing bodily sensation, and being, with the feeling, if you're in a parasympathetic state and there's something on your mind, that's disturbing your emotions, or there's something in your emotions that's disturbing you, right? Like, when you can be parasympathetic, you are relaxed enough to be behind that and see and experience this stuff without getting sucked into it.
You can observe what's going on, but not be reactive to it. Is that accurate?
You can be in the world, not of it. Or
go.
Yeah.
Go. That's fine, but I'm saying that's repeated so many times. But what I'm saying is, go into a specific instead of trying to go out to a general. Like, say, okay, so when I used to not be aware, this situation would be like this. Then when I am aware, then the situation would be like this. You know what I mean? I want to give people something to grab onto.
Sure. Yep. God, you're really pushing my edges here, Garrett. What the? Yeah.
So mind's going to try to save energy and go to these like platitudes or cliches, which won't have any value or meaning unless there's some raw, direct experiential component in the first place. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm trying. I'm thinking of a moment specifically.
Let's say in your personal relationships or your connection with family, or some way you used to react and now you don't react, but you observe the emotions or something moving around inside you, but it's no longer afflicting you. Maybe something like to that effect. That's because that's kind of a common theme of people doing and doing over time.
Yeah, and for sure. I mean, for sure, I felt that in even just the word professionals coming to my mind, just like the professional relationships, the ones where I've been showing up for feedback. I used to be terrible at receiving feedback, and I say used to be because literally that
example.
The feeling of receiving somebody's words about my stuff, because I felt like I was always like the hardest critic for my own stuff, that other people's how they were receiving it, it was like, what have you got to share? And that was just the mental story going on, right? Like what was happening inside was like this energetic exchange the feeling of it, that of receiving somebody's words, usually good feedback, usually somebody who's trying to give me something I could work with. I would
So
receive
somebody
it.
says, "Hey, Billy, you I don't
Piano
like how you
playing.
did this. This is bullshit, man." And then what happens when what used to happen if they said that?
I would spin out I'm thinking of how when I was learning piano even, and well, particularly when I was learning jazz piano to play at high levels. I remember sitting down with, oh my God. Oh my God. I can't believe I'm forgetting his name. Director of the music department, like Anthony Villa. God bless you, by the way. I'm sitting down and I think I've got chops and like, hey, take a look at this. I'd love your opinion, that like kind of an opening up for an educational moment. And, and getting his feedback and feeling like, no, like, dude, that's not true. He made this comment about, it's like, I was like, I don't need to read music to play music. And he was like, there's a reason that like these guys played at Carnegie Hall, the same place that all these classical musicians played at. And I was, I remember and this was my normal reaction, was like, dude, what do you know? Director of the music department. And I'm this like nobody freshman, sophomore at the time. And, and again, doing a lot of undoing work around this time, particularly sophomore, junior, senior year. And that had that the undoing work had a big effect on my ability to play jazz publicly. Because of that fear, because when I would, receive the feedback and I would it was intense to like express myself in public and be so insecure about it in this way with music. Mm-hmm. And breathing through this stuff, being able to revisit in the quiet spaces at home after doing a series of, at my dorm room, doing a series of undoing exercises and okay, Anthony, yeah, Dr. Villa, he might have had a point there. Maybe I should maybe I should revisit this, what he was talking about learning music and being actually able to like not have to become like super literate. I could just learn enough of the written aspect of it to help my in life aspect of it. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I mean that was one example, just being so closed, being so closed to what life was, what I was experiencing, not allowing this flow to happen in me, and then slowly breaking that apart and being able to accept information, just basic, simple. And it's like, hey man, just, if you can easily do a chord chart, you're going to be a way better jazz musician. And, as it turns out, from his many years of experience as a teacher of music, he was completely right. But I look back, I probably would not have been in that situation, to be able to progress and to be able to play the jazz that I was able to play with that music department and with those guys in the combo, if I hadn't just literally softened myself up and taken the time to breathe in to the experience and like, hey, this is something you want to do. Why are you so resistant to this person who's got the thing that is doing the thing that you want to do, is playing the music that you want to play? Like, he's got to have something there for you. It can't just be, well, dude, he just, whatever. I don't know how this kind of like, fuck you attitude of like, no, I can do it on my own and I don't need anybody else. And people who read music, like I can do it without reading the music. Like I definitely learned a lot doing that, but you also, by not integrating that information, I was missing a lot. And I would not have been as open feeling that. I mean, in certain relationships, even, we could always, the ones who trigger us the most, trigger, God, what a word, the ones who trigger us the most, mom and dad, right? And being able to breathe through that, just, when I would, there are, particularly my mom's always asking me about, like, hey, how are you going to support yourself? And I don't think that's a great idea. And when I told her, when I dropped the bomb, so to speak, and I was like, hey, I'm jumping on the road and I'm going to go live life. It was like, oh my God, what are you doing? Like, you can't do that, to the degree that when I dropped that information, and again, the undoing work was a part of helping me even get to the place where I could even drop this information. I was like,
Yeah.
hey, I'm leaving the corporate world. I'm leaving the script of what you think I should be and what you think life is. It was after this 4th of July party where everyone's a little bit like hungover, and it's like a big thing in our family at the 4th of July party. Like, we love to have people over. It's a great party. And I was like, this is the time I'm declaring my independence, because I'm an American. And I'm artistic at my core, at least to some degree. And I was like, all right, Mom, there's something I gotta tell you, something with that tone, the first words out of her mouth were, you're gay. Like, like that was the great fear. You know what I mean? Like, and it was possibly worse, the real fear, when I was like, I'm leaving Vodafone and I'm jumping in my car and I'm traveling. I'm going to see America, going to experience what this landmass, what this region actually is. And wow, that was I, again, would not have been able to have been as poised and as relaxed and as like, this is how I feel about it. I'm not doing this because of, like, I'm out. It wasn't coming from a place of reaction. It was coming from a place of, this is a desire I have. And I want to experience where this desire will take me. And so, yeah, I mean, that just even getting to a place where that's possible, undoing work, all the way. And I mean, even now, it's like, I look at learning as lifelong habits. So it's like, if anyone's expecting to ever reach a place with the undoing work, like I'm sure Garrett, I mean, unless you're super enlightened and like have reached the spot on the cloud where you can be like in lotus position, and making the mudras in your hand, or I guess,
Well, I tend to not interpret my existence through, an Indian lens or through some other cultural lens, that's mystified and mistranslated and hacked to pieces and put back together by a bunch of Californians. You know what I mean? But
but yeah,
so,
but there's no end point, guys. Like the onion.
I get what you're saying. I don't have to
constantly unfolding. But that said, you are my guru, Garrett. You're my guru.
No. I'm more like just the exterminating angel, or some kind of destructive force, that people need in order to let life back into their body and into their existence. Like I said, bringing and we kind of boil it down here, or come to a close, but we'll do more of these. More like, the way I see it now is getting out of the, like as Hyatt would say, getting out of the daydream, getting out of the imaginary, not only desires, or not only catastrophes, but also desires. Like, so many people kill good friendships or relationships. They first meet, then it's all pretty raw and real, to some degree. You're dealing with the real person. Of course, people are putting on an act, but I'm saying, when you're first meeting someone, for example, you're everything's new, so you have to be aware. You're perceiving like the touch and the communication, and you're hearing the words, and you're present. And then when they decide to go build a relationship, then the mind will instantly create this whole future scenario and fill in all the, oh, it's going to be like this, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, we're going to do this. And then the time goes by, and neither person is even present to the reality of the other, of their partner. Their mind is measuring the situation against what they imagined it would be like.
Mm-hmm.
Or as example someone gave me the other day, what were they were saying? It was like, you're thinking you're going to go to a New Year's party, and because you went to one and it was so amazing, all these things happened, then you're going like totally prepared for this scenario you've imagined, rather than actually showing up, no expectations, and like, oh, okay, so this is what's going on, no comparisons, and same with the partner. So every day you wake up, you see what's going on. Oh, okay, what can we do today? What are we going to move forward on today? And you're present, you're observing, and so I've, many relationships I had were killed off by the idea of what was going to happen, and then finding the relationship lacking because it wasn't measuring up to that massive fantasy, when in reality there might not have been anything wrong in the relationship. It just wasn't living up to that fantasy, and then we're trying to force fit it into that, and force fit each other into our ideas of who we are, rather than being present and observing, and then navigating just like you would on a river. You kind of know where you want to go, but you're gonna have to navigate every little piece of that thing with presence and awareness. So that's kind of one way I look at it.
Yeah. And how do you feel about the old metaphor you used to throw out there about the lighthouse?
Oh yeah, did I used to say that? Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, like a lighthouse, something beaming into that world made of words, that completely locked up reality. It's hard to really convey that to somebody, but people are living within a world constructed of concepts and ideas that don't necessarily even exist anywhere outside their own imagination.
Yeah.
And there's no way to measure any of those to see if there's any reality to them, because it's all being measured against other words and other interpretations. That's how a lot of seekers get lost, because they just start piling in more vocabulary and more words and more ideas. Yeah, I was the same way. And then the undoing just shot me right out of there, and I could see the difference between this imagination and then the more direct reality of the body and the things going on around me. And I realized most of the things I was afraid of not only most of them never actually happened. When they did happen, it wasn't a big deal.
Yep.
And I was able to deal with them. And then there was some amount of grace that I'd say God gives us, where no matter what the mind says is going to happen, there's always this some form of like protection and guidance,
Yeah.
Maybe even in Psalm 23 or in the Orthodox Study Bible, the numeration is different. Psalm 22, but Psalm 23 in the popular printings of the Bible, where it's the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want, and then he guides me through green pastures. But the rod and the rod and the staff. So the staff is like gently guiding, and then the rod is like, hey, get off, you're about to walk off the cliff, fool,
Yep.
That there's this sense of guidance and order actually to things, that things are not like Walt Whitman said, it was something like, oh, my brothers and sisters, it is not chaos and death, it is form and union and plan, it is eternal life, it is happiness. That if you could start to look more deeply, there's that things are ordered on to such a degree that it's kind of like mind-blowing to comprehend.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas
Yeah.
if you're in the imagination, everything can appear to be chaotic and horrible, and that's what leads people to suicide. It will, this mess of concepts and imaginary catastrophes, and then ideas and judgments and of other people, of oneself, and then it just like layer upon layer upon layer of those type of imaginary knots, and then people go kill themselves, or they go nuts and hurt other people, or they think they need to steal. There's no faith in it at all. It's all this like, I got to look out for myself, or I'm going to die alone, all this kind of stuff. You know what I mean, though? It's like you can see how it leads to that if you're trapped in there and there's no way to experience something outside of it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
for
And
me, the undoing and silent presence is like, no matter what goes on in there, that's not me. I'm not the inventor or creator of those of the thoughts, and I think they're going on for everybody. But I was suddenly able to see that track going. It had no relevance to me. It had no hold over me anymore. You know.
Yeah, I think yeah. What comes to mind is actually an undoing exercise. I mean, classic. It's got history going all the way back, but undulating between laughter and like I've got this, and this is the most. It's anticipation, baby, and let's go to like, oh my god, what the fuck is gonna happen to me?
What's gonna
Like,
happen to me? What's gonna happen?
no,
Yeah, and alternating laughing and crying, same thing. Yeah, similar kind of dynamic. Yeah.
yeah, like that, and that actually having the, and I suppose one of the virtues is courage, right? Like having the courage to be to the thing that's a catastrophe in your mind is also the thing that if you experience in reality, oftentimes is really no big deal,
Mm-hmm.
right? And like
Yeah.
if you just go and lean into it and have the courage and in my case, like, hey, mom, dad, like this is what I'm doing with my life. This catastrophe moment is just like, oh, well, that was all right. That was underwhelming. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
like life gets way more intense in other ways.
On some of the streams with Jonah, we talked about like he talked about how he used to have fear of talking to strangers, talking to women in particular, and that in his mind it had, and this is common, that's why I bring it up, not specific to him, but that
Yeah, sure.
in the mind it puts all these ideas onto the person, and then value judgments, and I could never talk to this person,
Yeah.
and and what
She's too
happens if
hot.
they reject me and all this, and then we
She gave me the
came to
look.
the reality. There's not really such a thing as rejection. I mean, you might not get what you want, but it's just it's all kind of an exploration, and you just and then not bringing these desires all around the place, but actually just discovering what's going on. So having some curiosity and a sense of discovery and exploration instead of running around with all these ideas of what you want to have happen, and interpreting everything through the lens of likes and dislikes rather than observing how things really are, and then navigating from there, which is a totally different thing.
I mean, I think that's an ancient Greek principle, right? Like being wise is just coming into contact with reality. And suffering can occur to the degree that there's a discrepancy between our perception of reality and reality.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like the undoing work takes you out of perception from that perspective, from the line I just dropped, and brings you to touch with reality. And if you're gonna adventure, you bringing your curious childlike wonder to it is gonna aid you.
Mm-hmm.
We've all got that within us. We've all got that, that little kid that's curious and super connected and tapped in, and just hey, what's asking all the questions you're not allowed to ask.
Yeah, and it sort of inspires and awakens it in other people around you too. I've noticed over time as well. Same with if you go out with some kind of doomy heaviness, that just spreads around as well, and people kind of get. And I'm not saying you create your reality thing. I'm just saying the mood and the attitude you bring to things affects everybody around you.
Oh,
I've seen people come to life where I was blown away. I saw the spark of joy in the eyes of like an old beggar woman on the streets of Zagreb or something, and I leaned down just to give a hug as I was walking by. I was like, shit, I don't have any change, but I'll give you a hug. And suddenly I saw her just come to life, and it was shining through all the filth and the situation that she was in, and I could no longer see that judgment or that layer anymore. I've had times for months where that was going on, where all the people around me were just coming to life. Didn't matter who it was, like the police officers walking by, then the guy flipping off the police officers walking by, but everybody coming to life, around me. And I had no judgment, no anything besides a really curious and like excited attitude about it. Like, wow, look at all this.
Yeah.
How amazing,
Yeah. And there's like a kung fu to that. I mean, part of the undoing training, right? Like is remembering to remember, right? Like is treating that like an instinct, like where you might bring heaviness. Because I've certainly been that guy, who comes
Yeah.
in is like, have you seen the state of the United States right now in government in Washington? And it's just like all this,
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
we can go down that rabbit hole. But like, but then like the kung fu of like, wait, be curious. Like where am I right now? What's going on? Eh? Like, what am I really? Is that like really something that's happening up here, or did like, am I not hungry? Am I just getting hangry? And now I'm, now I'm in this mood, and that mood, like you said, I mean, that mood can just, you may find yourself in a situation where you're just like you're bringing that thing with you, and it's affecting other people around you. That's just, we share things. That's what I mean. I feel like we also, I mean, we have mirror neurons, right? So if you can figure out pretty quickly, and I say figure out, you can experience what someone else is experiencing pretty quickly if you tap into the wisdom of that. And it's not hard to see how that's, you could be that person bringing your heaviness somewhere, or you could be that person bringing your curiosity and bringing your lightness. And all right, what's, like hugging a beggar on the street, like who is going to see, like what person across the street watching that situation go down is going to be like, look at this guy over here, hug, all right, cool, or what guy across the street is going to be like, look at this lose, oh my god, he's hugging this, you know what I mean? Like, and it has no bearing on what just happened between you and that person, between you watching this person wake up, because that interaction is between you two and some other person's lens. It's like,
Yeah.
some other thing.
Yeah, dude. It's yeah, and the only way to find out what's going on with the other people is to actually explore and communicate and be present and try to reach towards some kind of understanding, ask questions.
Yep.
Like the hypothesis. We always have where people are running around with a hypothesis about everything, but it's out of awareness most of the time, and they assume it to be true. And this is the death of most relationships: is that the people just assume their hypothesis to be true, and then what my friend Jeffrey calls the fundamental attribution error, like assuming that if you didn't get along with somebody, that there's something actually wrong with that person, rather than that their behavior is most likely the way it is because of environmental factors. And I don't mean like the woods, or when I say environmental, I mean surroundings,
Yeah.
situations, like
Yep.
people who lie over time. Well, they used to tell the truth, and then you fucking yelled at them, and every single time made it miserable. So then they're stuck. You know what I mean? So then that person might say,
100%.
"Oh, my partner is a liar." And then all their buddies go and agree with that. When the reality is that the situation was never explored properly. Oh, why would they be being deceptive? Oh, because every time they tried to be honest, you'd shut them down and make it a miserable experience. Not you know what I mean, but any of
Yeah,
us.
yeah, 100%. 100%. I mean, curiosity is like the little kid, waving the flashlight, walking around, you know what I mean? Like when you can get curious about stuff, and you can start to
Yeah.
aim, you can start to guide that 9-year-old into like, hey, why am I, oh wow, that, like, let me go into there, like, and see, and man, dude, I mean, also just that the fundamental disattribution error. That's one of those like McGraw-Hill bold terms in your psychology textbook 101 college course, social psychology. That it's exactly that. It's that the idea is really that you think you have more power over yourself than your environment around you. And again, remains to be argued, but environment is certainly a factor. And in, like you said, environment, social relations are like your social topography. Do you have a pushover dad? Do you have a strong-headed, strong-fisted, easy to lose his temper dad? Do you have a mom who's and then realizing that affects, a person that you're meeting way more than, oh, this person's in a suit, so they must be this way.
Right.
it's like, oh, dude, they're wearing, Lululemon, whatever. I don't know what the kids are wearing these days. The Lululemon stretchy pants, like they must be a certain, like like you said, the hypothesis. It's hilarious. I mean, and the funny part is like that I do that shit so much. It again with if I could say this to anybody listening to this, there is no endpoint. You're gonna keep finding this stuff.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You keep finding your own hypotheses that are outdated.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And it's good. You have your hypothesis, and you want to always be asking the question, what am I missing? What do I not understand about this? Especially if there's any kind of triggering or any kind of where there's a misunderstanding or a conflict with somebody else. What do I not understand? True understanding would be where where each person could honestly say, okay, if I was in your exact situation, I would have done, felt, and said the same things.
Yeah.
And that takes effort to get to that. Not why did you do this? Not that why did you do this? Why were you acting this way? I would have done it this way instead. But instead, like, whoa, dude, wow, if I was going through what you were going through, I would have felt the exact same way. Now I understand. And then solutions will present themselves, to those type of situations.
Well, even just that faith in that the solution will present, being open to the idea that the solution will present itself and that it's not necessarily something that you need to provide right there and then, is open to staying curious to the mystery of life and the guidance of the rod and the, oh my God, the shepherd's hook, like being open to the idea that you are a part of something larger, right? And I'll leave it at that.
No, it's pretty cool, man. And all right, well, I guess we've gone on for quite a while, but I think we can do some more of these. I might do one in the future. Are you still playing music, by the way? You mentioned piano.
Man, so the answer to that question is yes. And I've just been focusing a lot of my creative energy on honestly building a business around myself.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of until I really kind of stabilize that, I haven't picked up. But suffice to say, if you're looking to jam and you got a piano around, I'm looking to jam, man.
Well, that's part of it. What I was thinking of doing was maybe do a stream specifically for artists and musicians, or maybe one for musicians, one for artists, with a sequence of some of the warm-up exercises, the undoing exercises, and then other stuff I've added to it over time, to kind of break into a creative flow, let's say, where we're not just sitting around waiting for inspiration, but where they could do some exercises to break up the chronic tensions and to break up the mental constrictions and mental blockades, to being able to let go and improvise, or to do art, or to paint, or to do anything with the physical body and the singing voice and all this kind of stuff. So that's what came to mind when I was thinking about that, since you mentioned the piano before.
Yeah, I love that. Just sitting on the side of me that loves the mental rigor and it's jazz and this is the form and you play within the genre. Love that. I mean, we could do that. And then, what you're talking about in terms of, hey, it's a blank canvas. Let's just jam. Let's just see what comes up and, be all right with whatever comes up and have fun with it, play with it. Would love to do something like that. That would be, now you say that, ideas are already popping in my head. But it would be, like I said, I've been focusing so much of my creative energy on this to stabilize this because, that just needs to be done. Need to fund my lifestyle.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, we'll touch base on that again, and I'll let you folks know in the weekly group too when we do something like that, and then whoever wants to come on, we can all jump on here and do it together. It'd be fun.
Yeah. Yeah, Garrett, thank you for having me, man. This was a blast, man. We definitely should do this again.
It's super fun. Yeah, we went on for like an hour and 15 minutes. Crazy. The time just disappears.
What? Oh, wow. Oh, yeah. Looking at the time
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, I'm going to close out of the stream, but really great to see you, man. Nice to have a chance to just hang out and chat. And thanks for jumping on. I know it can be kind of spooky, maybe. I don't know I don't even know anymore what it's like for folks because I've been doing the videos for so long now that it's kind of become second nature. But I know when I go on somebody now, that's kind of a lie. When I go on somebody else's stream, like I've gone on Jim Bob's streams or some others, I'll notice for a moment I'll be like, whoa, like where am I? What's going on? You know,
Yeah.
where and then it passes in a few minutes. But I can imagine, you know, when you jump on at first, it's kind of like, what is this?
I had that experience while I was backstage. I was like, wait, what?
Yeah. It's kind of cool, this setup, yeah.
Yeah, it's cool. It's dramatic. It's nice.
All right, man. Well, thanks again. And yeah, I'm sure we'll be in touch, and I'll see you on Sunday for the session, if not before. Anybody who wants to jump on that, I put it in the show comments there. I'll put it on the screen, but it's radicalundoing.com/ngf-weekly. You come on there, see Billy and I and a bunch of other cool folks, and we do the Radical Undoing every Sunday. So
Highly recommend it, guys.
that. Thanks, man. That's really cool.
Yeah,
All right, so I guess we'll leave it at that. Great to see you, Billy.
absolutely, Garrett. Take care, man. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your day, and good luck with everything.
Thank you. Ciao.
All right, God bless. Enjoy. See you later, everybody. Enjoy.